All right, we are live. Good morning, everybody. Very warm welcome to day two of Global Travel Meet. And yesterday we had a fantastic show, and I hope today we have an equally good run and full of information, knowledge, exchange. And before I start, I want the audience to quickly give me a thumbs up if they can hear me and see me clearly. Give me a thumbs up. Yes, lots of thumbs up. Great, this is nice. All right, we have 27 people live with us. I'm sure soon a lot of people will be joining us. All right, so I am Aditi Sahu, and I am the creative content writer at TraWork and your moderator for this live panel session. And I thank Vandita, the founder of TraWork, for trusting me with this and giving me an opportunity to host this panel. And most importantly, I feel equally fortunate to be sharing the stage or perhaps the screen with such experienced panelists. And I'm just, without wasting any time, I'm going to quickly introduce you to all the speakers watching us live here. We have Joanna Haugen live with us from Ukraine. Hi, Joanna. She is a writer, speaker, and founder at Rooted, which is a solutions platform at the intersection of sustainable tourism, storytelling, and social impact. Joanna has been working in the travel and tourism industry for a decade now, so she's going to be bringing a lot of experience to this panel. Welcome, Joanna, and thank you for joining us early in the morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Next, we have on the panel Gaurav Punjabi joining us from Mumbai, India, who is an avid traveler and the founder of Cozyrooms, which is a boutique luxury travel company that designs experiences that are purposeful, sustainable, and immersive. Till now, he's traveled to over 40 countries and is under a constant endeavor to incorporate sustainable methods into travel. And we are very fortunate to have you, Gaurav. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you. Pleasure.
And from Mumbai again, we have Ashmidharya, who is the founder and holiday curator at Gypsy Soul Holidays. Ashmi has pursued masters in tourism, post which she has worked for 18 straight years with leading international tour operators like Thomas Cook. Until 2018, when she founded Gypsy Soul Holidays. And the most interesting thing about her, when I was also talking to her previously, that responsible travel has always been the default way of traveling for her, and this is what she has been imbibing and practicing all over these years. And welcome, Ashmi. Thank you so much for joining us. And finally, to make this panel wholesome, we have Sushmita Mukherjee live with us from Delhi, India. Sushmita has been a travel writer and a blogger since 2009, and her focus has always been on promoting sustainable practices among travelers. And she's founded Alpaviram, which is a really interesting venture. And I really like the name Alpaviram, which in English means semicolon. Am I right? A comma, right, yes. Which is a platform for travelers to connect and share reviews and articles on sustainable and responsible travel. Recently, Alpaviram expanded to sustainable living and promotion of local artisans across India, which is very interesting. And welcome, Sushmita. Welcome to the panel, and thank you for joining us. And I hope you all are doing well. Can you guys hear me? Give me a thumbs up. All right, great. So the subject for today's conversation is why travel companies and experienced curators need to adopt sustainable and responsible tourism. And now sustainability is a word that has been buzzing in various industries and sectors, be it sustainable lifestyle, carbon footprint, zero waste lifestyle. We've been hearing all these words for a while now, and these are concepts that are appealing to a good percentage of world population as well. So before I begin, I would really like the audience to sit tight. This session is going to be really tight, and we are going to be touching a lot of aspects of sustainable and responsible tourism and practices. Make sure you have a pen and paper in hand, note down all your thoughts, your key takeaways, and your questions. So So, to all the panelists, I would really like to begin this conversation on an educative note, since we are talking about two things that go hand in hand. One is sustainable travel, and the other is responsible tourism, right? So, I want the audience to first understand what is the basic difference between the two, because I know there's a thin line. I want to know what, according to you, does the word sustainable or responsible mean in the travel space? I would like Joanna to go first.
Sure. So responsible tourism and responsibility when it comes to tourism really is a focus on the individual and the destination. It's consciously making individual decisions that minimize environmental destruction, generate economic prosperity. So, this is when we say no to a plastic straw, that is being responsible when you travel. Taking meaningful action in the tourism context. But sustainable tourism really is more of a macro level concept. Sustainability means being able to maintain the livability standards that we have today and into the future. So this includes economic, social, environmental impacts on a much larger macro scale. And in order for the industry to remain viable, it has to be sustainable through the use of responsible decision making. So sustainability is not a kind of tourism, it is the goal of tourism so that tourism can survive into the future.
That is absolutely what I also agree with. That is great insight. I think a lot of our audience will be now opening up to this whole concept. And I would like Gaurav. Would you like to go next on this? Do you want me to repeat my question?
No, I got the question.
All right, great.
Thanks, firstly. And as Joanna rightly pointed out, sustainability and responsible tourism, they often get mixed in terms of, being the same thing. In reality, they have a similar goal, which is to positively impact a society or individuals and the industry on a whole. So they do have a similar and a parallel approach to things, but sustainability is a much larger approach. Sustainability has to be the final outcome, which is brought about by a large group of people. So you're looking at whether it's the political organizations in a country, large tourism companies, large tourism boards, and responsible tourism or responsible travel, as pointed out, is about how we make our individual choices when we travel. Slow travel, for example, when you're ditching the flight for public transport. You're choosing to buy organic, locally sourced stuff, or avoiding plastic. So they both have a similar goal eventually, but they're very different concepts altogether. But they can't work without each other. You really have to be responsible in your travel first, and that's when you can achieve sustainability, for the ecosystem. So both integrally very important, though.
Absolutely, I completely agree with you, and it's so wonderful that all of you, while we're talking about the same thing, you guys bring such different perspectives into this, and I'm sure this is going to be such an insightful session. Ashmi, would you like to go next and give us your understanding of sustainable and responsible tourism in the travel space? Yes, Ashmi.
Sorry, I kind of lost you all for a second. So pretty much what Joanna and Gaurav said, that responsible tourism is the step to achieve sustainable tourism, and responsible tourism is something that you can achieve as an individual on a micro level, and to reach the larger goal of sustainable tourism, which is on the macro level, where you would require maybe assistance of local government bodies. You would need assistance of maybe different organizations to achieve it. But responsible tourism is something that each one of us can do in our own way, in our own small way we can add to what what is required in terms of achieving sustainable tourism.
Right, right, absolutely. That's great. Thank you, Ashmi, for the insight. And before coming to Sushmita, Sushmita has asked me to present something. So I would like to just take a second to present my screen and then allow her to um, give her perspective on this. Just a second. I'll just quickly present. Yes. Can you guys see my screen? No? Is it not?
I can see.
I just shared my screen. All right, I'm getting a lot of no's from the chat. All right, it's up now. Let me just zoom in a little bit for the audiences to have a closer look at what we are seeing. Yeah. Is it visible to you guys now? Yeah. All right, Ashmi, sorry, Sushmita, please go ahead and explain this to our audiences.
Right. So these are the sustainable development goals. Now, one of the confusions, as we have been talking about, is the difference between responsible tourism and sustainable tourism. Sustainable tourism would be something when all these goals are met. A lot of channels and a lot of tourism organizations are promoting themselves as sustainable by taking off only one or two boxes. So that's, I think, where the difference for me for responsible tourism and sustainable tourism lies. That sustainable tourism is a package. It's not a selection. You can't be selectively responsible about something and not look at the other aspects. A collection and the implementation of all 17 goals that are mentioned here, which are called collectively the Sustainable Development Goals, which have been issued by the United Nations in 2015. So these collection of all of these formulates the Sustainable Development Goals, and that is the definition of sustainability worldwide, and that's what should be adhered.
Great. So should I stop sharing this, or you want to continue with this on the screen? I think I should take it down, right? All right, thank you. Great. I think that started on a good note. I'm sure the audiences are able to now understand the whole concept of sustainability and responsible tourism in a much better way. So yesterday in most of our conversations, I heard speakers mention responsible tourism quite often while they were addressing other subjects, but they were also mentioning responsible and sustainable tourism, and they also agree that this is the way to go ahead. So while we're talking about sustainable tourism in context to the COVID thing and the pandemic and this whole lockdown scenario, I want to understand, will the pandemic change the way the travel industry has been running so far? I mean, the mainstream practices, and which has been, let's accept it has been damaging, right? So if you agree, then how does it make sustainable and responsible practices a more pressing concern for travel companies? Is adopting sustainable methods more necessary than ever now? I think I would like to go Ashmi first on this. Yes, Ashmi. Did you understand my question? You want me to repeat it? Does the audience understand my question? Please give me a thumbs up. Yes, all right. Yes, Ashmi, please go ahead. Ashmi, are you able to hear me? Please unmute. Yes.
Sorry, I'm facing some sort of internet instability, so it keeps coming and going.
No
I'm sorry about that. So if you don't mind, if you could just repeat that question for me, because yes. It just went blank for that moment.
Absolutely. I would love to do that. So I want you to elaborate on the fact that if we all are thinking that the pandemic will change the way the travel industry has been running so far. Is it going to be different now? And if yes, then how does it make sustainable and responsible practices a more pressing concern for travel companies? Is adopting sustainable methods more necessary than ever?
Okay. So to answer the first part, yes, I think the pandemic will definitely bring about a change in our current behavior. And like all other industries, I think the travel industry will also have to make changes. And I think to a large extent, we've already started making changes to the way we work. To take an example, look at what we're having today, a travel meet which is online. You have to use technology. And I think, travel industry to a large extent, other than a few large OTAs, kind of stayed away from technology. We still, majority of us still did a lot of this personal, interactive, traditional, if I can use the word, way of working. But I think this pandemic has given us an opportunity to, work with technology, make the necessary changes. And just like all other industries in our economy, we're going to have to do that because, that's pretty much the way forward. The only good part I would say about this pandemic is it's given us an opportunity to make the change. There is the time right now to do whatever we need to make sure that we keep up with what the client requirements will be. So having said that, I think also it's very important to remember that, these changes are constant. So you cannot say that, okay, now technology is the way it's going to be, so I'm going to only do that much. We'll have to keep, evolving. And we're going to have to keep ourselves open to that. So that's pretty much the change that I see happening with the travel industry. Having said that, I think this pandemic has made a lot of us, including our travelers, the clients, everybody around, realize the importance of giving back to our society. While responsible tourism has been around in a very fragmented manner, right? There are certain hotels who would do that. There are certain destinations who speak about it, but nobody really spoke about it as a whole. And there was never so much awareness as there is now in these last 3-4 months, where all of us are sitting at home and we've suddenly realized that, if we don't take care of our planet, it will make sure we do. And I think this is going to help all of us be more focused on it, take it up wholeheartedly and work on making sure that everything that we do at the end of the day is in the favor of our environment. And at the same time, as travel companies, we're all going to have to work on ways to make sure that our client travels responsibly, but still has an excellent experience. So it's not that you travel and then you have to stay in some hut somewhere. That's not the point. The point is you can still have a good luxurious holiday as long as you're making sure that your stay does not adversely affect the economy of the place that you're going. It does not adversely affect the people who are living there. You're keeping it cleaner than probably what you went there and you saw. It's just small things that we as individual travelers can do and still have a wonderful holiday. So it's just about mindfully adopting responsible tourism.
Absolutely. I think people from our chat also agree to you on that. I think that was a brilliant answer. Gaurav, would you like to go next?
Yes, thank you. So, you talk about the impact about, how travel will change after the pandemic. I think, to be honest, there's going to be significant changes because, these last few months have, shaped the way we will continue to live for a while. If not permanent changes, human beings have memories which, tend to fade. So in a couple of years, we'll be back to, our past ways. But we will have shaped our thinking for a while in terms of especially how we travel. So, as Ashmi touched on, as travel companies, as stakeholders from the travel industry, there are going to be a lot of things that we will have to incorporate. This is probably the first time in any of our lifetimes that we've had a 4-month holiday, which has been a sheer luxury for everyone because, we're the kind of business and the kind of ecosystem we're in. We're so back to back with, traveling, with dealing with clients. There's so much going on. So, we're so grateful grateful that we fortunately now have the time to incorporate these changes, which, in a way, I feel travel will change in terms of, travelers looking at maybe not traveling as frequently. Maybe they won't be doing 4 trips a year. We had a lot of travelers who would get on jet planes every couple of months, and just want to get out of the country. I think the trend is going to shift to taking fewer trips, but probably longer, more immersive. They would like to dive deeper
Right.
into a destination, and at the end of it,
More
we've all
meaningful and more
experienced
expensive, I
more.
suppose.
We've
Yeah,
experienced a negative impact of the pandemic, so we just want to make sure that wherever we go now, we can just give back in a positive way. So I think it's great. In a way, I think this is something which was due for a while. So overall, I'm pretty excited at what this change will bring to our industry.
definitely, definitely. Although it seems all stuffed up right now, I also personally feel that it's going to change the dynamics for the greater good.
Absolutely.
Um, Joanna, I would like you to go next and tell me what you think about it. Do you want me to repeat the question? If you,
No, that's okay. I I think that this great pandemic pause has given destinations all over the world a chance to just really rethink their priorities and their carrying capacity. Coming into 2019, tourism was on a runaway trajectory. I mean, over tourism and flight shaming, this is what we were talking about just a few months ago. And this pandemic has really put a stop to all of that. And I've seen, for example, Venice, Amsterdam, many destinations that have said, okay, we cannot go back to the way things were before. And they're really rethinking the way that they want to package their destinations, the way they want to market their product. And we also saw a lot of cities that converted, for example, bike lanes for their local residents during the pandemic, and they're planning on keeping those bike lanes as pedestrian spaces, bike spaces versus for traffic. And I think that this focus on local communities and local businesses really hit home, and a lot of destinations are really rethinking the way that they want to welcome travelers back into their space. So to me, that's a very, very positive outcome of this pandemic. All that said, I have also seen some evidence of travelers who are eager to do just about anything to hop on the next flight. I mean, there's this new trend called revenge tourism, which essentially is travelers who are revengeful of the fact that they've been locked up at home, and they're eager to go anywhere they can go without, much thought about what that means to the local places they are traveling to. Just yesterday, in fact, I read an article about an airline company. I believe it's in the UK, and that could be wrong. That is taking flights. They are taking off, flying for 3 hours, then re-landing at the same airport, just so travelers can fly. And I mean, the pandemic may have stopped everything, but the climate crisis is still a thing. And the fact that we have airlines that are just going up and flying in circles so that people can be on airplanes is very concerning to me. So I really hope that the destinations that are taking this opportunity to rethink the way they want to offer travel are going to do that in a way that sets expectations for travelers, because we talk a lot about traveler education and awareness, but we can't leave that up to the travelers. Destinations and tour companies and those working in the industry need to be the ones to set the expectations for the travelers, so that sustainability is done by default, so that the people who are traveling have no choice but to do so responsibly. So my hope is those working from the industry side are going to be the ones who make the responsible decisions and implement policies and guidelines so that the only way to come back is in a more responsible, more sustainable manner.
Right, right. Absolutely. In our previous conversation also, we happened to mention that sustainability should be the default and it should not be a trend. Great, great. Absolutely, I agree on that. Sushmita, would you like to quickly add to something to that? And I would jump to the next question.
Yes, definitely. I think all the points have been already been covered by my fellow panelists, and we've discussed this in detail in our demo sessions as well. That yes, how does this impact the tourism industry on the whole? We are looking at a different breed of travelers coming out of the COVID situation. We're looking at travelers who are more woke, who want to spend time, like Gaurav very correctly said, that people want to spend more time, look for more immersive experiences. As Ashmi said, they want to be more responsible. And as Joanna mentioned, that it cannot be done by the left to the traveler alone. It needs to be done in tandem with the travel industry. And the travel industry has to set the standards correctly so that the travelers who come back know that this is a new world and this is going to be their new normal.
Right, right. Absolutely. That's again a great insight. All right. Now I would like to steer the conversation to more specific questions. I will ask one question to each one of you, and we'll be touching some specific aspects of this whole concept of sustainability and responsible tourism. I would like to begin with Joanna. Joanna, you have been a travel writer for a really long period of time now, and one thing I found most interesting in a previous conversation is when you mention how terms like bucket list and Instagrammable are in turn very damaging. People do things like 30 countries before they turn 30 and stuff like that. So my question basically is, while adapting more sustainable methods is important, communicating them in the right way can actually help companies to attract the right kind of customers. So I want you to elaborate on the communication part for because we have a lot of people from the industry and travel companies. I want you to elaborate on the communication part as though what has been happening wrong and what can be the new productive way to talk travel.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I was a consumer-facing travel writer for many, many years, and now that I am not working in that space as much, I look back and I can see the damage that travel writing has done. But it's not just travel writers. The communication and the marketing and the language used within the industry has actually helped fuel a destructive way of traveling as well. So you mentioned, for example, bucket lists and Instagrammable. It's very common for tour companies and destinations to talk about their most Instagrammable places, and you must go see these sites when you visit our destination. So, my two initial questions for anybody who's thinking about the language that they're using are, number one, what kind of traveler are you attracting by the language that you're choosing to use? And number two, what kind of expectations are you establishing by using that language? So let's just use the term Instagrammable for a second. When you say our destination is Instagrammable, or these are our Instagrammable sites, who are you attracting? You are attracting people who are simply interested in using something as a backdrop. And what kind of expectations are you establishing that this place or this site that you're saying people should just be taking photos of has no historical or cultural context? It's just a two-dimensional space. And that's true for any kind of terminology we use. You think about the word cheap or budget, for example. That's another very common term that's used in the industry to attract travelers. But what kind of travelers does that attract? And what kind of expectations are you setting up by using that word? So language has a weight. And tourism for far too long has been a very parasitic relationship where travelers get something out of the place and the people, the place they are visiting and the people who live there, with very little return for the people or the place that they visit. And a lot of this is not even known by the traveler. I mean, a traveler can't know what they don't know, but we don't talk about things like using precious water resources, the cost of waste management, environmental degradation, cultural degradation and appropriation, and all of this can be stemmed from our use of language. I really, really believe that we need to do a better job of bringing historical and cultural context into the language that we use. We need to be better in the industry to be open to inviting different storytellers into telling the story of a place. We need to let people rumble with complex topics. It needs to be okay to talk about things like the climate crisis and waste and water problems and gentrification and all of these things that are being fueled by tourism. And you know, there's this belief that going on holiday is this beautiful, pretty thing, and it is, and it can be, but it shouldn't be at the expense of other people who are living in the place where you visit. And I think it's okay that we talk about those complex topics, and we can do that in a very powerful way by inviting new storytellers in to talk about these things, to actually, I'm a big believer in bringing solutions to the table, so highlighting social enterprises that are addressing these very pressing issues. And actually, I mean, there's been a lot of research that shows that when we provide insight into solutions and we provide hope and show that, yes, there is a way to address water scarcity and, you know, these other problematic issues, that can activate change in travelers. So for a long time, travelers have been part of the problem. And if we can change the way we tell stories and the way we use language, we can actually activate travelers to be part of the solution. And in order for travel to be more sustainable moving forward, we need to do that, because we can't have tourism without travelers, but we can't keep destroying places and people the way that we have been. So, you know, I would just like to encourage people to really think about, who are you trying to attract through your language, and what expectations are you putting out on the table through the words that you're using.
Right, absolutely. In fact, that was such a great insight, and I remember having a conversation with Ashmi, and this is what you concluded on. This is exactly what she had previously said, that if we don't leave the planet, you know, beautiful and worth visiting enough, if we keep destroying these locations, how do we see the travel and tourism industry flourishing if these locations to which we are traveling are destroyed? Great. Thank you so much, Joanna. That was a full answer to my question. I would now like to shift the conversation towards the customer side of the business, and that again brings me to Ashmi. Ashmi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah.
For a change, it's over.
Right. Ashmi, since you have worked a lot on the B2C front of the tourism industry, I want to know if you see a shift in the customer behavior in travel space, especially when it comes to this whole pandemic situation. Do you have any specific observations from countries which boil down to the fact that sustainable and responsible tourism is the only way for companies to grow and move forward? I want you to point out some specific observation. I'm sure you have many.
Sure. So to begin with, I'd say that in India, at least, look, tourism from a leisure point of view hasn't really started because of all the lockdowns and stuff like that. But from the conversation that I'm having with my clients, or with other colleagues in the travel industry, what we're seeing is that there will be quite a major shift, in customer behavior, at least in the short run. It may not. I mean, we don't know how it's going to really be in the long run, but in the short run, there will clearly be a difference where, an increasing number of our customers are going to want to visit destinations and make purchases from travel companies based on their sustainable practices. Okay, it's not going to be like earlier where it was more a case of I want to go someplace and then whoever gives me a better deal and slightly better service gets the business. I think that little change in the mindset is what I anticipate going forward is what it's going to be like. Also, safety and hygiene will become one of the most important criteria on the decision of the traveler. So, a decision such as where will I go? It's going to depend on the perception of the destination in the traveler's mind. Is it like a safe destination to go to? Do they have a disaster management plan in place? What happens if I get stranded? How do I get back? These are kind of questions that are going to very clearly play on the client's mind when he takes a decision. Ease of accessibility. Can I drive there? Am I going to be in my own vehicle so that I'm safe? Or do I have to change transportation? That's going to make a big difference on the decision of the client. The choice of accommodation. Not a lot of them are going to want the large 100, 200 room accommodation options. They're clearly going to look for more boutique options, homestays, villas. These are the kind of changes that I'm clearly anticipating after this pandemic. Also experiences, a lot of us used to take these coach tours, seat and coach tours, hop on, hop off tours and stuff. That is also, I'm anticipating a change where people will now start looking for the local, smaller tours, like a walking tour of a city or the old town and things like that. So it's not going to be a big group. It'll be 10, 15 people together. So I think that's another change that I'm seeing. And clearly, like even Gaurav had said earlier, that we're going to look at a slower holiday. We're going to look at fewer and longer stays. So, that clearly is again another shift, at least from the Indian market point of view that I'm seeing. So answering that first question of yours, yes, there's going to be, at least in my mind, there's going to be a clear change in the customer travel requirements. Coming to international destinations and the need for sustainable tourism, I'll again go back to what I said. It's the perception of the destination, which is very important going forward, right? Now, if we look at internationally, and I'll take a few examples of countries which are pretty popular for us in India. So if we talk about our neighbor in Bhutan, that's one country which is doing phenomenally well and they've always done it. So it's not something new. They believe in the whole principle of high value and low impact, right? They're very clear. They don't want over tourism. So they've taken steps from like forever saying that, look, we want limited number of people in our country. There is going to be a daily tariff. So if you want to come in, you need to spend so much money, needs to give so much employment to our people. And that's how, they're very clear on their sustainable goals because they want tourism, but they want it for certain value. And it works really well because even post-pandemic, that's one country for people who want to travel somewhere near India, not travel too far. That's some place that in our mind is going to be safe, because that's what they've always practiced. Coming to Switzerland, look at the perception. I mean, which Indian customer you talk to anybody, they'll tell you the destination in their mind when it comes to Europe is Switzerland, right? Everybody wants to go there. Now, having said that, they have, again, coming back to the same perception point of view, they have, they've won an award in 2017 as one of the top 5 countries achieving UN Sustainable Development Goals the fastest. So, look at that. And that's one of the reasons where recently we had UAE government had come out with a poll which said these are the most safest countries to travel post-COVID, and Switzerland was one of the top 5. So I'm saying that country has been investing in sustainable development goals, and you can see the result of it right now in terms of tourism. Another country, Scandinavia. Scandinavia has these 4 countries which have always been very high on sustainable tourism. And we can clearly see that. So the city of Copenhagen is one of the most sustainable and energy efficient cities in the world. And today from India also, a lot of people go to Copenhagen. It's become pretty popular in the past 3-4 months. And obviously, once, things ease off, tourism is going to boost there too. So these are destinations, which have been investing, and I think they are seeing the result even today of there's been no change in the perception even after the pandemic. So people still see it as a safe, good destination to travel to, that there's no problem there. We can go there the moment the countries open up. Similarly, there are hotels who are also investing a lot, on these kind of activities. So, for example, Accor has the whole policy of plant for the planet, which means that they encourage their guests to reuse the linen. So reuse your towel, avoid washing your linen every day, and whatever money they're saving on their laundry, they're actually using a percentage of that to plant trees all over the world. Now that is giving back, to the environment. And similarly, there's a beautiful, beautiful chain in India. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Evolve Back. The whole chain of resort works on the principle of responsible travel, and they're not doing lip service. So, you go and stay in their resort, and they do follow responsible waste management, energy efficiency, water conservation in each and every resort. And again, these are places which are clearly going to see, an increase in demand the moment things open up. Now, what I wanted to summarize and say from all these examples is that, yes, it does seem overwhelming. If somebody tells you now you need to start changing your way of working and invest in sustainable tourism, and you're going to be like, oh my God, how do I do that? But the point is that we all have to consciously start, and we will see the benefit in the long run. These examples are just that these people started so many years back, and they are seeing the benefit right now. So it's just about taking the first step. And I think all of us, if we individually start it as a whole, I think sustainable tourism will be the way forward.
Absolutely. My God, that was a brilliant insight. I mean, you literally opened so many doors in my head right now. Thank you, Ashmi, for the great answer. Gaurav, I would like to now shift my question to Gaurav, which is going to be more inclusive. Now that we have talked about the world, let's talk about ourselves now. So, Gaurav, I know for a fact that you are a believer and a practicer of what you preach. And in my previous conversations with you, you talked about how you plan to personally make your office paper free, and you mentioned about other such companies that you take inspiration from that are hiring locals and paying them equally. And that brought me to the thought that while it is equally important and beneficial to be a travel company that promotes sustainable travel practices in their tours, in their packages, is it equally important to incorporate them in the company's functioning first? I mean, is it like that? I mean, should you also be personally practicing all these methods and then promoting them, or how it should be? And I would like to hear your insight on that.
Absolutely. If you ask me, I think anything begins at home, whether it's charity or sustainability. If it's not part of something which you practice as an individual or as a small company, it's impossible to inbuild that culture into your clients. So because we're a boutique travel company, we're all very conscious about how we feel about the environment. There are several steps which we take at our office, because pre-pandemic we were all working out of the office. Now, of course, the dynamic changes, and we'd have to see going forward, that work from home and office staff balance. But yeah, as you rightly said, it's very important to firstly adopt these yourself, because it kind of inspires your clients or your colleagues, by itself. So a few steps that we've actually personally taken in terms of sustainability at our workspace is, as you pointed out already, that we aim to go paperless by 2021. And the reason I say aim to go, because as easy as it sounds, it's not, because a lot of people in our trade and clients till date demand for physical printouts. They want tour vouchers in terms of a paper copy. So things like that. So we're just trying to encourage the whole digital transformation by sending them e-documents, by just educating them about, like literally in our email signature we've mentioned that to print one paper, one A4 size paper takes like 2 liters of water. forget the trees. There's a lot that goes into it. So stuff like, going paperless, we completely avoid plastic in our workspace in terms of, when clients used to come in pre-pandemic for meetings, and, giving them like even water bottles. We've shifted away from using those, tiny plastic ones. There are other things like in terms of even office commodities and things we consume in the office. These are small things, but you can't start off from day one by setting up a solar panel on top of your roof and get sustainable. Of course, those are expensive means, and eventually, hopefully, we can all reach there. But in terms of sourcing stuff for the office, like your tea and your coffee and your sugar, we try and, I mean, I'm not saying we're completely successful, but we try and obtain them from organic sources, locally made. Stuff which is basically empowering some community somewhere in India. And there are some fantastic brands today in the Indian market, homegrown brands, make in India, which we can, all encourage. So we try and, purchase our stuff from them rather than, go and do it from the biggies. And finally, as you mentioned, in terms of, the people, because at the end of the day, as much as we do for the environment and other stuff, you have to take care of your people and your travelers. So in terms of our team, it's about trying to employ people who are local, who live around in our area, if it's possible. In terms of paying them fairly, because a big part of sustainable travel is not about just giving to a local community outside your city or country. It's about also empowering your local community right around where you are. So in terms of paying them in the right way, in India we don't really have laws which dictate that you need to pay a certain wage per hour, and sadly a lot of times it's taken advantage of, because we have such a massive population. People are severely underpaid, so it's about paying them in a fair way. The work hours are correct, enough leaves in a year. These are small things, but it all, at the end of it, it all contributes to a sustainable way of living and working. So absolutely, it's completely integral that as individuals, as small companies, if it's in our culture to be sustainable, it inspires the team, it inspires your travelers. Small steps like this, I think, can just achieve that macro level goal of sustainability. So we try and do it as much as we can, and we're not 100% successful, but hopefully in a year or two we can achieve more.
Absolutely. I think more than just achieving, it's, I think, more about incorporating. If you're thinking about it, if you are making efforts towards it, I think the work is half done. So kudos to you, Gaurav. I think it was just not for all the companies. This answer was for all the audiences in general. These are some of the very small and basic but effective ways to move towards more responsible and sustainable existence, I would say. All right. So my Sushmita, I would like to come to you now. So you started Alpaviram, which is effectively working towards uplifting the local businesses and local artisans, right? So I want to know, actually, I want you to address the audience about the importance of such practices, uplifting the local businesses and collaborating with local artisans, and the benefits of it. Because after all, we are talking about travel as a business here, so as an industry. So if you could please elaborate on both the significance and the benefits, I think it will be a great insight for the audience today.
Should we wait for the audience to have questions?
No, I just want you to answer and address, so for the audience to understand. That's it. We already have a couple of questions from the audience. We'll take it.
Great. So one of the things that I started out as a travel blogger, as you had mentioned. So one of the things that I realized is that we, as travelers, we used to carry our own luggage, and then we used to go there, find something that was beautiful, that was indigenous, and we would like to bring that back to our homes. But a lot of times we would not be able to do that because there was a baggage limitation. So you can't come back with a certain kind of with all that you want to purchase. So that, I think, the idea stemmed somewhere from there, that why not create a portal that by the time you get home, the gifts that you have, you can just book in advance. You can go, select, book, and it reaches you at the same time as you reach home. So this is one of the ideas that we had in mind. So this is how the whole process of integrating different, local people from the different parts of the country, and ensuring that they have, that they have employment, a steady source of employment all around the year. Because as you know, a lot of destinations are still very season friendly. Like you go to one particular region in one particular season, but what happens to the artisans of that particular region when it's not the tourist, it's not the tourist season? So keeping that in mind, having a platform like this will actually help and enable the artists to have to create their handicrafts. And it's a matter of great pride that the national government has introduced the Go Local program, that we are actively talking about reaching out to our local artisans, supporting our local handicrafts, because it is so very important. Something very interesting that happened yesterday. Yesterday was National Handloom Day, and a lot of people talked about, it's not just about posting a pretty selfie wearing using a handloom product. No, not anymore. We actually have to invest in them. We have to invest in them all around the year. We have to find new ways and take greater joy in our own identity, in this identity of being Indian, and sharing and reaching out to all different parts of the country. If you look at the handloom sector, if you look at the handicraft sector, it is so vast. There are so many unique kind of gifts that you can give on so many different occasions, and make you can create your own stories with every for example, a friend that I had visited Ladakh with for the very first time. I remember that after a couple of years, I mean, sometime very recently, when I had the kind of money, I was able to gift a Ladakhi quilt to her when she got married. So it just makes, it's not only a memory of our trip to Ladakh, it's also a meaningful gift that she'll be able to use. And it just makes sustainability actually is a much more meaningful way of living. It's not just, it should not be perceived as something that is a chore that's hard to do, or like Ashmi also pointed out, it should not be very overwhelming. It should be something that we should embrace happily, because it's a collective good. I mean, we benefit, the artisans benefit, of course. Talking about the artisans, of course, there are in the COVID times, more than ever before, it has been very, very difficult for them. They have hardly had any remuneration going throughout these past 4 months. Some of them were able to post their matters on social platforms like Facebook, and they went viral. I mean, we had one Madhubani artist from Bihar, in one remote village of Bihar. He had very sketchy internet. He was able to post that he's not been able to earn anything, and you will not believe the kind of response we got for that gentleman to make Madhubani masks for that we can wear on a daily basis. These would be a triple layered. I mean, they would ascribe to all the basics, and it would be essential. At the same time, it would be beautiful. It would really set you apart. So ideas like this there, and of course, India is so well known for jugaad. We are very, very good at jugaad. That's one thing we excel at. And I'm saying that if you give our artisans, our handicraft a chance, they will surprise you, and you will find so many interesting and intricate ways to blend in that meaning into your life. So yes, definitely. So if that can be a tip.
Absolutely. I think I've already got so many nice ideas inside my head. I think I'm immediately after this session, I'm going to get chatting with my team, and great. Thank you, Sushmita. All right. I think we have a couple of questions, actually more than a couple. We have quite a lot of questions, and I think I'd like to take a few have been upvoted as well. Great. The audience is really liking the Airmeet platform. They are upvoting the questions as well. So I think the most upvoted question here I have is that as this corona pandemic has already shown the reality to the world, do you think that now there will be a new definition of sustainable and responsible tourism? And is it must to implement this in a better way? speakers, would you like to answer this question, or you would like to take it personally? This is a question posted by Aman Raj from Indian Institute of Tourism and Travel Management, Gwalior.
So if you want, I can quickly answer this.
Yes, absolutely, please.
So I don't think the definition changes. I think the definition remains the same irrespective of the pandemic or no pandemic. We have to understand what sustainable and responsible tourism means. Okay, so that doesn't change at all. But is it a must to implement this in a better way? I think more than better way, I think it is very, very important to implement it in your day-to-day activity and hence make it a way of life. And that's pretty much what Gaurav's already started doing in his office. It's a small way, but you incorporate it in such a way that it just becomes a way of life, and then you're not consciously saying that, oh, I'm going to work towards this. It's not a big, it's not a monster that you have to attack. It's just something that you have to incorporate gradually, and it just becomes a way of life. And like Sushmita said, it's not that difficult. We gift constantly, right? We're constantly gifting people stuff. How difficult is it to make it a point to buy something which is a handicraft, which is created by artisans across our own country? It's not that difficult. It's just about, like I said, incorporating it as a way of life. The pandemic has just brought it to the fore. It was there lying somewhere in the background for a few people, but I think, so that I hope I've answered the question.
Absolutely. I think, Aman, I hope your question has been answered. Next, the most upvoted question we have is that, can you cite some examples of what can be done to not compensate luxurious travel experiences while still keeping sustainability in mind? I think Gaurav will be the best person to answer this.
You almost
quickly please answer this question.
Shortlisted that one. So that's a good question. I think what Reva is trying to ask is how can you not compromise luxury travel experiences while being sustainable, which is pretty important, because there's a very fine balance between luxury and sustainability. And to quickly point out a couple of examples, there are properties that we work with. One of them is a brand. It's called the Great Plains. They're a set of lodges in Africa. And what they do is they're owner-driven, camps across various countries in southern and central Africa. What they do is that travelers staying with them, and they're pretty expensive, of course. If you think of it, you're paying about $1,000-$1,500 a night to stay at these lodges. The owners have set up a foundation where they take up entire villages, supporting them through economic development, through just empowering that community to such a level by employment and other means, that it's done absolute wonders for their community. So travelers can still enjoy luxurious experiences. It's just that they need to choose the right luxury travel products which are out there, and they can do it. And similarly, there's another property in Indonesia which I'm sure a lot of people have heard of. It's called the Bawa Reserve. It's a tiny property, it's in the middle of nowhere, actually. You can get in from Singapore, from Malaysia. So what they do is their marine conservation has just taken it to the next level. Since they opened up like a couple of years ago, they've seen the ecosystem of the marine life just flourish, because they take care of the corals. They put a lot of money of their revenue into marine conservation. So you don't really have to compromise for luxury travel experiences, as long as you know the right product and the balance is maintained. You can get the best of both. You just need to choose right.
Right. I think that answers your question, Reva. We have a lot of questions here. I'm going to be selective now. I think we have already answered a few in our conversations. I think one question is here by Prithwij Modi. He's also a student, and he asks that is sustainable travel isn't too feasible. Feasible in terms of monetary aspects. He's asking that how will the middle class families who are not able to afford expensive tours, so how will they be able to incorporate these, keeping a cost-effective mind? Cost-effective travel experience in mind. I think this is a myth, according to me, and I think we should bust this right now. Who would like to answer this question now? Sushmita, Joanna, who wants to?
I'll take this one. I think what's really important to remember is that having a high quality experience is not the same as having an expensive experience. And you don't have to go far from home to have a high quality, sustainable experience. In fact, one of the things I think the pandemic has shown us is that there is an opportunity for domestic tourism in a way that we haven't thought about before. And so, I don't think it's about paying for the most expensive property. I don't think it's about paying for the most expensive tour. It really is about finding a travel experience that allows you to get to know a place and get to know people on a more personal level. And that doesn't, you don't have to take the high-end safari in, Uganda to do this. Truly, you can take even the rest of this weekend to go somewhere in your own town and find a new way to learn about something that has always been there, but you always thought it was for tourists, right? So what is the news story you don't know? Who are the people that you don't know very well? What can you learn from them? It was brought up earlier about the Sustainable Development Goals, and a big part of that is about creating sustainable cities and communities and supporting local people. And, so I would say that if there's a way to do that in your own city or very close to home, you can have incredible experiences without, breaking the bank, so to say. So, we talk about sustainability on the macro level. We've talked about that a few times during this conversation. But when it comes to responsible travel, I mean, that again starts at home. That is about bringing your own bags when you travel. That's about, flying in economy versus, first class. That's much better for the environment. That's about taking a different kind of transportation or spending longer where you are going to be traveling. Like, these aren't necessarily more expensive things. It takes more thought. It takes a conscious effort to do responsible, make responsible decisions. So, I would challenge anybody who says, well, we just can't afford to be more sustainable in our travel experiences. I would say that sustainability is not about cost. It's about really being mindful of the experience and the way that you are interacting with the people in the place that you're in.
Right, absolutely. I think the myth has been busted, and a lot of audiences are now very clear that it's not an expensive affair as it sounds like or it seems like. So that really brings me down to the end of our conversation. Unfortunately, I've been loving this conversation so much. I think I can have it for another hour, but I think I'll have to conclude this now. And lastly, I want you all to give a very crisp, a very small answer, 2 to 3 lines. How do you think adopting the concept of sustainability can be a game changer for businesses in the travel space? Anybody could go first.
Okay, so I guess, should I take it first?
Absolutely, if you want.
So again, for me, I think, going forward, travelers are going to be extremely aware of the need for responsible tourism. And I think there are so many, things we're reading on the internet, in the news and stuff about the need for responsible tourism. So I think as travel companies, if we don't wholeheartedly adopt responsible tourism practices at our end, we're not going to stay relevant. There's going to be somebody else who's going to take away that business because the mindset, the wavelengths of the customer meets with what the travel company is providing. So unless we consciously and wholeheartedly, and we have to do it wholeheartedly. It can't be that, okay, you know, right now I don't have an option, so let me start adopting this for the moment and then I'll change again. So it doesn't work like that. It has to be incorporated as a whole, and if we can do that, I think it will be a complete game changer for each one of us.
Right. Sushmita, you want to go next?
Definitely, thank you. There's a lot to process, definitely. Going forward, we don't want to repeat of what was happening at the Mount Everest. We don't want what was happening, the base camp becoming a trash dump. Similarly, we don't want, Lakshadweep has already lost one island because, because of the climate change, the sea levels are rising. There is an imminent crisis in front of us, but we need our holidays to detox. I would recommend that, keeping that in mind, that when you go to your holidays, please look at ways to detox, to unplug, spend some time with people who actually matter. So make these holidays meaningful from all possible ways. Like, put some thought into your holidays. Don't just fly out. This is primarily for the consumers, for the travelers. That, the thinking, we have to think where we are going, where we are headed, quite literally. I mean, for a holiday or not, we just think about where we are headed.
Absolutely. I think more than just a responsibility, I think all these practices can make your whole experience so wholesome and so nice. If I would, for the lack of a better word. All right, Joanna, would you like to explain more on how the concept of sustainability can be a game changer for businesses?
Building on what my other panelists have just said here, the fact of the matter is that we have to cut emissions in half by 2030. That is 10 years from now. And we as a society in this world are racing against the clock. And if tourism is going to survive in any kind of way, it needs to adapt. It needs to become more responsible, and it needs to adopt a sustainability mindset, or there will not be tourism. So, I would say how is it going to be a game changer? Survival. If we want to still be working in this space 10 years from now or 15 years from now, we have no choice but to work under the mindset of sustainability.
Right, absolutely. Gaurav?
Thanks. Yeah. So I completely agree with what the rest of them just said. I think to sum it up, it's important for travel businesses at every level, no matter how big or small, to adopt this, nature, this culture of sustainability, because travelers today, after this whole episode that we've all been through, they will look for experiences which are, relatable. They look to work with companies which they can connect with on an emotional level. They want to feel good about what they're doing. So in a nutshell, if you can, be sustainable, it's not just, you might not just end up, looking really different in a crowd, because we're already a very crowded marketplace. So it's not just about building a USP. Don't, like Ashmi said, don't just do it because you're being forced to, or because there are sanctions. People need to start looking into this as a way, like, we'll have a future for our industry, for tourism. So it's going to be an absolute game changer for all the stakeholders in our industry to adopt this, So let's hope we can all achieve it, though.
Absolutely. I think this whole session has been so informative and encouraging, exactly how I wanted it to be, and I'm super happy right now. And that's the end of this whole discussion on why travel companies should adopt more sustainable and responsible tourism practices. Thank you all for joining me. I had an amazing time chatting with all of you, and I hope you had too. I will just quickly make some announcements for you. Joanna, Sushmita, and Gaurav and Ashmi will be available at the speakers lounge in the at the speakers table in the social lounge. So if you have any more questions, personally you want to interact with them, please go ahead. You make use of your networking time. Up next, we have another conversation, another topic, which is going to be know where your customers would like to travel. It is going to be moderated by Aditi Dave, and this on the speaker we have Joanna Booth, and on in hall number 2 we have scope for co-working spaces and cafes in context to the emerging concept of slow travel. So if you guys are interested in the co-living, co-working, and cafes, if you want to know anything about it, make sure you go back to the attendees schedule and click on that, and you will be redirected to hall number 2. I hope you had a great session. We would love to hear your feedbacks, and thank you for joining me. I hope the panelists also had a great time here.
I think it was the best start to my Sunday in a long time.
Yes, I hope Joanna's morning was worth it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, signing off now. Bye-bye.